Before we head on to our arguments, I would like to address several things that were proposed by the proposition team. The other side of the House have been depicting the concept of prioritization of formal education to be coming from a conservative, closed-minded, forceful, and rigid parents. Now, we believe that formal education upholds a greater degree of importance in which I would like to explain later on in my speech. Meanwhile, the other side of the House has not even yet explained and elaborated further the characterization of formal education itself, as if they're ignorantly neglecting and ditching the common laws that have been resolved by many educators advocates that leads to the system that we are in today. In any degree, the proposition team cannot accuse our notion as conservative or not open to any changes, which I would like to explain furthermore. Now, ladies and gentlemen, in today's world of ever-growing technological revolution and businesses, economies that become more and more relies heavily on creative pursuit, it is no more a secret that digitalization of careers and education are just as important as what is considered grandiose of an occupation back before technological advancements such as lawyers, doctors. Meanwhile, the reality that formal education in educationally undeveloped and left behind countries may create the notion that creative pursuits are now considered as some other form of education that creates the heterogeneous idea that one should pick one choice or another in order to be in the right path. We completely disagree to the idea that leaving formal education is okay from the other side of the House, since we still would like to argue the significance of formal education given and what could be done better to create a more sustainable life for a family and even society as a whole. Here, we will have to characterize some of the terms given in motion. Middle-class parents are almost very flexible and fluid in choosing whatever is right for their family living without leaving huge impact towards the survival of one family, but are not freed enough with financial constraints, which also leads to seemingly compulsory work or occupation that one child has to partake. These dynamics have been going on a lot in many diverse middle-income families, so it is not a surprise that when providing formal education over creative pursuits seems like a negative thing to implement. That is why this occurring confusion and notion needs to further elaborated by first defining what is considered a formal education. Formal schools are schools that every citizen ever has to take them from the very beginning of their childhood, around 3 to 4 years old, to at least around year 9 in most countries like Indonesia and other Southeast Asian countries. This formal education is what categorized as compulsory by law, and by dropping out means that we believe would cause more harm than good. We understand that it depends on the situation or what school the children is in, but giving formal education no credit could also lead to a harmful way of living. By this means that one could thrive in whatever passion or harmful way of living. By this means that one could thrive in whatever passion or creative pursuits they want, while still managing to understand the basic standards of education for their own sake. Digital creative skills are those who have been very popular among many kinds of family around the world, since has been keeping up connected nowadays, in which in our side of the House we would still put them as an option but not a priority. Which is why as the opposition team, we stand to oppose this motion that a middle-class parent, this House will not support their child's choice to deprioritize formal education in favor of pursuing digital creative skills or career, content creation, audiovisual design, etc. As obnoxious as it may sound, to the lack of priority and depth that most society understands, we ought to make formal education to be taken by children no matter what reason that may come that seems to intercept the term formal education itself when it is not. We believe that creative pursuits have to be considered as one of the branches of formal education, in which fundamentally could not behave as a standalone to one's life expectancy. The root of it all includes everything that are taught in formal education. Now that this may seem subjective due to the fact that many formal schools are failing to teach students on what is fundamental, now that deriving or detaching creative pursuits from the name of formal education itself may seem to be a play safe, it actually gives more harm than good, since it labels formal education to be bad and creative pursuit to be good, when in fact they are one whole package. The other side of the House decision may seem understandable, but is selfishly depicted since it does not think about how formal education is mandatory for a reason. In our side of the House, we would like to be for reformation of change that makes formal education equally developed in terms on what they are teaching. Now, we would like to move on to the mechanism. To achieve this goal, parents need to be able to understand on why formal education exists in the first place. And as children, it is understandable that there would be a lot of clashing ideas between children and parents, but it does not mean that we would just let we will let them absent from rules and regulations for the sake of their better lives. And we could not just give in to the fact that they are pretentious or do not want to listen, do not want to be advised, like what has been assumed from the proposition team to be true. Communication is the key to all understanding. Now that formal education may fail, it is not the condition that society, even small families, should just give up on the fact. Parents have the right to recommend a better system to the school, as well as having the choice to put their children in art schools that also involve all science or basic mathematics that are considered as formal education. Therefore, we do not agree that turning our head away from formal education itself would create a better system. Now, I would like to move on to my first point of arguments, why formal education is important, like what I have been mentioning. First, now looking at Indonesia as an example, it is stated in the law that compulsory education according to Law Number 20 of 2003 concerning the national education system is the minimum education program that must be followed by Indonesian citizens on the responsibility of the central government and local governments. Formal education gives children the ability to cover the basic and fundamentals knowledge. And this is important because it covered the basic and fundamentals knowledge, not only knowledge as in known facts, but also crucial to their brain development, such as cognitive, behavioral function and skills, such as critical thinking, that also swiftly correlated to the idea of creativity. They still need a legal place to be educated as well, as it also provides them the fluidity and range spectrum of occupations that could be received into they could get by receiving a standard diploma. Even when students could get scholarship purely from their skill, pragmatically thinking, it is still required for a structured education to be undergone by the students. Now, I would like to move on to the second argument, that why by persisting on prioritizing on formal education is the most effective and essential way on the development of children. And why this is true, because as has been mentioned, formal education helps in building competitive approach, creating a social atmosphere, learning and understanding different cultures, and giving unique experiences, which is absolutely not possible with just informal and non-formal education, since this is very seclusive and secular way of thinking. We believe that by this approach, it is a whole unity of sets of abilities that each student had to gain in order for them to be successful in life. And for all those reasons, we are so proud to oppose. Thank you.